Welcome to another edition of the Deals for Dentists podcast. And today we're joined by Austin Ritter. He's an inventor and CEO of Ascentcare Dental Products. Did I say that right?
You did. We just say Ascentcare around here, but Ascentcare is good too.
Ascentcare. I usually butcher, at least one part of the name or company. And I'm actually going to butcher this because you're zooming in from Muskegon, Michigan.
Muskegon, Michigan.
Muskegon.
Yeah. And we do the old, the hand, we're right on Lake Michigan. So if you look at Lake Michigan, we're right there on the lakeshore, directly
Okay.
across from Chicago. Essentially, you can see Chicago if you on a clear night sometimes. But yeah, we're right there on Lake Michigan.
Okay, and you can go to dealsfordentist.com and find their promo offer of 10% off your first order, and that's exclusively for dealsfordentist.com. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. I look forward to it.
So I wanted to just find out about, first of all, I wanted to, I have some of your products and they're awesome. So I wanted to go over some of the products that I use and some of the other products that you have. But first, just tell me a little bit about your company and how your journey and how you help dentists.
Yeah, so my journey began about 15 years ago. And actually, it's been closer to 20 years now that I think back. Back in 2001, a very good friend of mine, he was my neighbor, started out as my neighbor, and then he was a dentist. And he always would explain to me things that he would like to improve in his dental practice. And at the time he had three, maybe I think there was 4 locations at the time. So he was in the acquisition mode, and he had quite a few locations. So he had a lot of diverse problems, I guess you could say. And so he would express his concerns and where he thought he might be able to improve. And he kind of used me as an outlet. And I was always tinkering and doing things as far as working on projects outside of my company at the time. And so it gave me an outlet, creativity to work on projects that I thought were fun. And I would present these ideas and these devices to him, as you know, as prototypes. And most of the time he would shoot them down, but every now and then he'd give me a thumbs up. And I knew enough not to go any further than just that. I didn't want to divert from my focus of my company. And so I would just, pretty much, I was very disciplined to not pursue them too much further, because I knew that you'd have to go into the manufacturing, you'd have to go into the marketing and the sales and all that stuff and come out of that trough. And that requires pretty much all of yourself and your family to be able to do that. So my introduction to dentistry was back in, around that 2001 time frame, a really tight insight into it, which was very helpful. That gave me the insight, and that was really, really helpful. Listening to what, my friend had to say, and then, coincidentally, it was just a lot of the ideas I had, worked out. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And but about 2000 and I think it was around 2012, I decided to do my second act in life was to pursue the dental business and bring some of my devices to market. So a couple of the patents I'd filed had been issued. And then, so I figured, well, they're worth, kind of letting loose and seeing how the market receives them and move forward. And so prior to that, I was creating and inventing, but I wasn't bringing them to market. There really wasn't a lot of, aggressive marketing through the trade shows and through the internet or anything like that. So in 2015, I was awarded a patent that was on a mouth prop, a bite block essentially. And I thought, well, I'm going to move forward with this and devote my time to it. So I could have really done anything, and it's more or less passion. I really enjoyed it. I enjoy working with dentists. I think all dentists that I've talked with are great. I mean, they are just full of ideas. They're very supportive. Um, their constructive criticism is done in a nice way. They don't say, "Oh, your idea is just stupid." They're always like, they always follow up with, "Hey, if you did this a little bit differently, or if you did this, this would be great." And they're very optimistic. I think they're optimistic. I think most dentists are optimistic by nature, just because they're small businesses and they're dealt with so much every day, no matter what it is. And then they got to put a smile on and work with their patients, and then go into the hiring and the HR side of things, and then, come back in and smile and work. So they're very optimistic. So it's always been fun working with them. Even if my ideas are bad, they always have a nice way of making you feel good about it. So it's been interesting.
Now, what was your original company before you said back in 2001? What were you doing back then?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So when I graduated college, I started a company that did payroll, benefits, and HR. So we were basically the back room for our customers or our clients. We were known as a PEO, or employee leasing. So you put your employees on our payroll, and we would handle all the benefits and the human resources and payroll. And I started that at a really young age and just grew it over the years. And after about 18 years, I was pretty much ready to move on, do something different. And so that was, I'm on the board of directors still, but I just don't have much to do with the company any longer. It still is operating in Detroit, the Metro Detroit area, which is on the other side of the state. I grew up in Muskegon, or Grand Haven, actually, which is 10 minutes, south of Muskegon right here. So I always knew I wanted to retire to the Lakeshore, which is over here in Michigan. We get the sunsets. We've got sandy beaches. It's pretty nice. And so I always wanted to make my transition to the other side of the state. And so, but my company did payroll, HR, and benefits. So that was my real passion and focus for a number of years, for 15, 18 years.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a seamless transition from HR and benefits to inventing dental devices. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
um,
it's funny because I would leave the office, and we would, between the insurance company and everything else, I was, always at a desk all day long working at my computer or what have you. And so I'd leave the office, and I would work on little devices, at night over at my house or on the weekends. Pretty introverted. I guess you could say I'm an outgoing introvert. I'm able to smile and talk and that kind of stuff, but I really like to be just in my lab and working on ideas. So that was my excuse to hide, I guess, is working on some of these devices for my friend, and also gave me an outlet from a creativity standpoint. And so it was just fun. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, working with all the dentists was a lot of fun. We had some pretty cool stuff that we've got.
now, would you consider yourself an inventor? Because you're way better dressed than Doc from Back to the Future. And
Yeah.
he bumped his head and passed out, and then he thought of the flux capacitor and invented time travel. But you're way better dressed. So would you consider yourself an inventor, engineer? What would you call yourself at this point?
Yeah, it's funny. When you're more or less an inventor, an engineer, inventor, it's here. The difference is that, I would say an inventor, because I come up with the ideas. I use my own money to finance the engineering, the R&D. I use my own money to go through the manufacturing process, and then we use our own money to go to the marketing and sales end of it as well. So we kind of go through those three phases. And I'm really not a great marketer. I'm not much of a salesman. I'm not, but I do invent the ideas, and I am intimately involved in the engineering aspect of it. So, we get the feedback from, dentists and hygienists and dental assistants. And then we put them on a whiteboard and say, how do we solve this problem? We boil it right on down. So I'd say it's an inventor side of things. My name's on a lot of the patents, so it definitely makes sense.
So I wanted to ask you about that whole process, but this makes me so happy. This product right here, It
Yeah.
makes my life so much easier. So how do you go from the idea, the conception, to the prototype, the R&D, to the patent, to actually being able to put that in someone's mouth? What's the whole process like?
So we started, I'll give you an idea. So we ran with an adapter that worked very, very well. It enabled dentists to deploy it quickly and reasonably inexpensively at their, at their operatories. Because a lot of the dentists wanted to, initiate 6, 7 of these operatories with, an HVE isolation device that would pull aerosols out. So we went through and we got the opportunity, the unique opportunity to talk to a lot of dentists that were buying our products. So they were actually calling us and talking with us during the time that a lot of the dental offices were closed. We had gotten feedback from dentists, and it was a great I mean, it was just unbelievable talking with each one of these dentists. And we got to hear what they liked and didn't like. So at the time, we were impartial. It didn't matter which one we sold. If you wanted to buy an adapter for a Xeris Isolate, you could. If you wanted to buy an adapter for a Dry Shield, you can do that too. Both of them, we were really impartial. Now we took a consultative approach, here and said, what is it that you're trying to do? What do you want to accomplish? Is lighting important to you? Those kind of things. We would go through and talk with them, but we got tremendous feedback on what they liked and didn't like. And a lot of people were currently using either one or the other, and they wanted to expand, to other chairs in their operatory or let their hygienists or their, dental assistants use them and that kind of stuff. So we had gotten a lot of feedback on what they liked and didn't like. And so we went to the drawing board and said, how do we solve some of these problems? And so one of them, like for instance, as you know, a lot of dental offices are expanding and they're either an acquisition, they're buying other practices, but they'll end up with one Xeris at one location and one Dry Shield at another location, at their chair sides. So they were balancing, they're buying some Dry Shields and they're buying some Xeris because they're very specific to their adapters. And they're engineered that way. They want you to buy their whole ecosystem. And so, creating a mouthpiece that would fit both Xeris and Dry Shield was, important for us because then you don't have to keep track of the inventory. It's you just buy one and you can use it at both locations. So that was fairly important to us when we went to develop, these pieces here. And another thing that we'd gotten feedback was they're very loud. So we were very concerned about the noise, decibels, when you're pulling the vacuum through all of the little holes and orifices and everything going through there. They were pretty loud for the patient as well as the doctor to talk. So we wanted to make one quieter. How do we reduce the sound decibels? So it's you can talk to your patient and and they already have anxiety, so they don't need anything super loud in their mouth. So we wanted to make it quieter. We wanted to make one that was autoclavable. But the only one that was autoclavable was a Dry Shield. And the problem with the Dry Shield was very difficult to clean. The bite block and the mouthpiece were like two separate pieces. So you had to disassemble them and then you had to get into all the little areas and scrub it and clean it. It was very difficult. So we wanted one that was very easy to clean and there was no corners or areas for debris to get caught in. Or grow. So, and we wanted a one piece because disassembling it and assembling it is another step that you probably, you don't want to have to deal with. So we wanted to have a one piece that was very easy to clean. And so, the list just kept going on. And so we came out with our mouthpiece and it was, we went after autoclavable. We wanted it to be very easy to clean. We wanted it to be very quiet when it's running. We wanted to adapt to all the adapters, or both, the Dry Shield or Xeris, whichever one, and go forward from there. And so we spent quite a bit of time in development on this piece. It's a difficult piece to make, as you can see. There's a lot of surfacing, as far as the engineering behind it. From the CAD's perspective, it's a lot of surfacing, and it was we wanted to hit the right size. So we want our mediums. We wanted the feedback on the mediums. Can we get a good size that's very comfortable for the patient? The large, the small, we wanted all those sizes to hit just right. And The other thing is we wanted our piece to be evenly. We wanted a negative pressure, nice and even throughout the whole mouthpiece, so you get a nice even flow. Now the medium that's the pieces that we have are engineered to have a nice even piece, but we also have a flap, so that flap curls over on on the roof of the mouth or at the bottom of your mouth, and it's not uncomfortable, but it also catches a lot of your liquids, your saliva or what have you, in there. So as it hits and rolls down, that catches it and pulls it back up, and out it goes. So you won't have as much pooling in the bottom of the mouth. Now the medium that like you have in your hand, that was our first one that we released, and we got some feedback on that one, and we wanted to add a few more holes right on the bottom backside here. And all of our other ones have a few more holes in them that allow it to get down deeper into the mouth and pull that pooling liquid out, so you don't have to have that saliva ejection tube, going in there as much if you have a little bit of pooling going on at the bottom of the mouth. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Is we went through this whole process of looking at it and saying, can we do this? Can we put one together that's quiet, that's autoclavable, that is very simple to clean, and also fits on all the adapters? And through the R&D, we came out with one that we liked quite a bit. And so then we went into the manufacturability of it, in the manufacturing side of things, because silicone is different than a TPU. Xeris is a thermoplastic elastomer. It's a TPU. You can't really autoclave it because it's a plastic elastomer. So silicone is a different manufacturing process. Takes longer times to make the piece. Your cycle times are definitely longer, and so the material is a little bit different, but it's also very, very supple. It's a durometer of 50. It's very comfortable in the patient's mouth, and you can autoclave them, and the savings is astonishing at the end of the day. But more importantly, when you add up how many of the Xerises you're throwing away on every patient, it's crazy. You're not it's just filling the landfills up, because when you do the math, it's staggering on an annual basis. I believe that it's my opinion that that a lot of dental offices will begin using a device similar to like ours to reduce aerosols, because if you could see the lab test that we have, when you run these mouthpieces in your mouth, you have nothing escaping, hardly at all. So all of the vacuums on the wheels and all those different things that their devices are putting in the dental offices are really irrelevant once you run one of these mouthpieces. It literally pulls negative pressure in the mouth. As you say, dental offices are very unusual in that if you go to a hospital, you've got, you have your negative pressure operating rooms and stuff that, are pulling some pretty good aerosols out of the air. Where a dental office, you just don't have that opportunity. It's very difficult to do. So why not create negative pressure in the mouth, pulling all of the aerosols, including outside air through the mouth. And that's really what these pieces do. There is some real high speed splatter that may come out, as you're aware, and that will happen. But for the most part, if you take even like a paper towel and just run it past it'll just suck right in. I mean, it's just boom. It's pulling so much air from outside inward that to me it makes sense from dentistry to really enact these and use them more often. Except it's a cost factor. It's a very expensive proposition to use one for $2.70 or $3 every time and then throw it away. So you've got a couple of things going on there. And so the autoclavable option really helps out as far as the affordability goes. And that's kind of where we're hitting on. But more importantly, we have ours as a lighted, we have a lighted adapter as well. And silicone transmits light a lot better. So the luminescence of it is a lot more preferred when you're transferring light. So we can transfer some pretty good light through ours. And that's another great feature of silicone.
And what's the name of the mouthpiece that I'm holding here?
Yeah, we call it the Vaculux. It's just the Vaculux mouthpiece.
So the
and
Vaculux.
Then we have the adapter, the Vaculux adapter.
You mentioned Xeris. That was formerly Isolite, correct?
Oh yeah, yep. Isolite, Xeris, yep.
And so if I had like personally, we used the Isolite, and I can put your mouthpiece right onto that connection.
Correct.
So they're interchangeable, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
And how many uses can I get out of one of these?
You can get comfortably around 50 to 60 uses. Much more than that, they'll start looking a little rough. I mean, you can still use them, but they just look dingy. You may want to replace it and refresh it with a new one, but they'll still perform. What we're using in our silicone is it's a real so silicone is, there's different prices of silicone. So depending on which type of silicone you want, we use a really high end silicone. So, typically we could have gotten away with a silicone that was around $8 a kg. Silicone comes in these big drums, these 50-gallon drums essentially. And we could have gotten away with that $6 to $8 range, but we wanted to transmit really accurate light. So, and we also knew we wanted more of an optical grade. So we went and got a really decent silicone that's around $22 a kg. It's literally almost triple the amount that a normal silicone would be. So you can autoclave them very easily. They transmit light nicely. They just take up a little bit more. They're a little more rugged. So it's a good silicone that we use in our mouthpieces.
In that drum, is it a liquid?
It is. It comes in two parts. It's a two-part system when you're doing LSR injection. When you're injecting silicone. Unlike a thermoplastic elastomer, you have these little beads of plastic that come down a funnel, and it goes into a screw and it shoots it into the mold. It heats it up, and it puts it into the mold, and then the mold cools down, and then it shoots it out. Mold opens up and it kind of kicks it out. Where liquid silicone rubber LSR will squirt it into the mold. The mold actually heats up, which causes the silicone to react and harden, and then you pull it out of the mold. So it's kind of a different process, but it comes as a liquid. It's actually a 50-gallon drum of liquid.
I see.
And then you have two parts, and it mixes and it squirts it into the mold, and that's how that process works. Takes a little longer, like in the manufacturing side of things. It's to do a thermoplastic elastomer like a TPU or something. You can do a lot of them quick because you're just shooting them in, and it's just coming, clamp out, clamp up. Where with a silicone, it's a little bit slower process. So your cycle times are definitely longer. There's no doubt about it.
And where are they made? Where's the factory?
So we're made in Michigan, Muskegon, right here in Muskegon area. So
And,
right on Lake Michigan, yeah, right in our factory here.
okay, so it's made in the U.S. I was going to say, typically a lot of manufacturing is done in China, and you're probably very happy that you're not having to deal with all with the political situation and COVID, and having to deal with manufacturing and shipping from overseas. It's nice to have it made right in your backyard there.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's there is some arguments to having items made in China or Mexico or wherever it may be. Tooling wise, your tooling, like to manufacture your tooling, you can have tooling made inexpensively overseas, as far as the tools go. But the manufacturability in the U.S. is definitely the only way to go.
And what's the patent like process? What's that process like? How do you get a patent on one of your products?
Yeah, for sure. So what we do is we usually this are a lot of our ideas we keep pretty quiet internally, and then we meet with Jim. He's our patent attorney, and he's Jim Schultz, and he'll come into our conference room. He'll say, okay, what do we have here? And we'll tell him what we're thinking about doing. And we'll say, listen, we do not want to violate anybody's patents. We don't want to get ourselves in any problems. Here's what we think we have. Now, let us know if there's a problem with this, because we don't want to take anybody's ideas or even get into a legal problem. So he'll evaluate it and let us know what we can and can't do with our pieces. And especially in dentistry, there's a lot of patents filed, and a lot of them don't really go anywhere. They just are there, and a lot of patents. So what we'll do is we'll file a patent on an idea that we have. We go through the R&D. We once we're pretty comfortable with it, we'll invest the money in the R&D. If we find something that works for us and it achieves what we're looking for, then we'll file the patent. And then it takes a while for that patent to come back. A lot of those patents that you file, some of them will get shot down. Some of them will have an office action where you'll need to modify your patent, and then you can move forward from there. So it's a pretty long process, to go through it. But patents aren't going to guarantee you everything. They're good to have. There's no doubt about it. But if you want to create an idea and just have one patent, one idea, somebody's going to figure out, if they like it, it's a great idea. They'll figure out a way around it. They'll do something. What we found is, if you continue to innovate, if you keep moving forward and you're innovating and you're releasing some new stuff, and nobody can keep up, you just keep going and moving forward. It's hard to get going out there. And we have people copying our adapters, but they don't have the lights. They don't have the, like you say, the whisper light. They don't have all these little accessories that go along with it. And so eventually it's hard for them to just keep up. So it's, a lot of the things like our mouthpiece, our mouthpieces are always going to be, we'll always be listening to what people have to say. And if we can make it better, we will. We won't even think twice about it. And so if there's if we get feedback from like your viewers, if they say, hey, this is what I think, could be improved on it, trust me, that gets put right on the whiteboard. We will take a look at that very carefully and say, can we do it? And if it makes our pieces better, we'll do it. I mean, there's no question about it. We'll look at it and say, hey, the feedback is this. Can we pull it off and launch it? But if we continue to innovate and move forward, that's almost as good as a patent. It's hard to keep up. It's very difficult.
What's the percentage from whiteboard? You have an idea, it's on the whiteboard, percentage that you actually end up moving forward with it, and what's the percentage that you're going to successfully get a patent?
Yeah, so I would say 1 out of 10 ideas that we have is, we'll move forward with. If we have someone that presents something that makes sense, we'll evaluate to see how big the problem is and the need. What problem is it solving, one, and is it worth the time and money to put into the R&D of it? And once we move forward with the R&D, we will have prototypes made, and we do our own prototyping in house. We have, much like a dental office, have a 3D printers and whatnot. But we then will take that idea, and if we get good feedback, if it's comfortable, we will file a patent on that and move forward. The patents are not a very inexpensive proposition at all. If you just filed a patent on every idea you had, you'd go broke very quickly. It's great. I mean, you can put your name on it, but if it's not a marketable product, and if it doesn't have a chance of returning, it doesn't make sense. But I would say our patents, most of them go through. We're very careful. We review before we file patents, because we don't want to spend money if we don't, So we review them very carefully, but we'll get out of 20 claims. If we get 10 or 12 of those claims, that's usually pretty good. We're pretty happy. On a couple of our devices, we've gotten all 20 claims. But we've got some of our stuff actually is based on magnetically coupled fiber optics and some other things that really didn't have a lot to do. It applied to our light engine, but it can be applied to other areas and other industries, not just used on our light engine. So it's not something that we're looking into. We won't pursue and go after. We're very, very focused on dentistry. Mm-hmm. So a couple of our patents that we filed, we were actually surprised. I guess every now and then you're surprised. You're like, oh, wow, my God, what? Really? You wouldn't think that, you'd think, well, that's already been thought of, already done, and it hasn't. So you really don't know until you review your patentability and see, what's out there, what exists. And furthermore, you don't want to try it on I'm an inventor, so I don't wake up every day thinking I'm going to go steal some other inventor's ideas. That's just not my nature. My nature is I look at problems. I love seeing problems, and I love to have solutions to those problems. And so, we don't get up and say, I'm going to take someone's idea and run with it. But if we see something that might protect our intellectual property, from more of an offensive, from offensively, we will certainly file the patents if they're relevant and move forward with it. But that takes a long time for the patent office, the USPTO, to come back to us and say, hey, here's what we found, here's what we think is not, patentable, and then we can go back and forth with them if we choose. But it takes a while in itself. It's a 3-year process.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah, you're gonna, if it's really quick, you might be able to get it in 2 years. But it just depends on what your strategy is, and so some of our stuff that we have that we feel pretty confident about, that it's, you want to file as many patents around that item as you can, so you get a pretty clear idea. If you had an idea, there's no doubt it's your idea because you have so many different patents around it or hinging on it.
If you were denied a patent on a product, let's say, would you still pursue that product if you believed in it and still fabricate it?
Absolutely. If we could work out a licensing agreement, if it was something that we saw solved a problem that was being addressed, but I knew who has the patent, we would need to reach out to them and say, hey, here's, we would like to move forward with this product. However, it is going to infringe on your patents. There's no doubt about it. You've got to reach out to them and say, hey, look, what can we, let's talk about it. Otherwise, if it's an area where we get denied because it's unrelated in a whole nother industry and there's like a little part of it, then it's really tough to move forward, or we change our design. So we'll look at the design and say, well, how do we manufacture this so we're not infringing on another person's patent? And then we'll go forward from there.
Now, was Ascentcare all set to go to all the conventions last year and the trade shows, and that got canceled, or do you do more digital marketing? What's your marketing strategy?
So we were all set up to go to a lot of the trade shows, and they just one after another started falling. And so we've enjoyed the trade shows quite a bit. They're a lot of fun. I love talking with dentists actually at the trade shows. When they stop by the booth, you can see their input and get their their feeling and stuff, and they're kind of out of their element. So it's fun to go to the trade shows. We like going to them, and we will support them. But the digital side of things is super strong. I think it's underestimated. A lot of the dentists, their time is extremely valuable. So they're more and more going online and researching and doing most of their stuff at their convenient time. Trade shows are good, but it's tough to really reach out to as many dentists at a trade show, as you can through online. And so we've been seeing a huge uptick in online activity, just, reaching out to the dentists and the hygienists and whatnot. Social media is super powerful. It's more powerful than people realize.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I developed Deals for Dentists, is I wanted to bring the trade show price right to the dentist's office, because a lot of dentists will, or used to, do their shopping. They'd wait until the trade show, but like you said, our time is so valuable, and especially with COVID, some of these trade shows may not be coming back fully for a while. But I also heard the return on investment there isn't quite what it used to be, because setting up a booth can be quite expensive.
It's not cheap. There's no doubt about it. It's expensive for your labor, setting travel. You'll spend a lot of money. I can tell you over the last 3 years that we've been going to the trade shows, that we've gotten feedback from a lot of people that have been there a lot longer than we have, for sure. And they've definitely seen, a lot of the dentists are going to the shows. They're going to the classes. They enjoy the classes considerably, but they're not coming down to the trade show floor and going through the products. And honestly, I don't blame them, just because it's it's hard for them to walk into a trade show and they're just being, jumped on. I mean, you can imagine if you're one of, a couple hundred dentists walking around and, I mean, everybody's all over you. And so it is kind of hard to, go down to a trade show and walk around where, like you say, you go online or you get feedback or you can see ratings or you can, you'll see all kinds of stuff, or compare products quickly and easily, right from your online, computer. So
Yeah, I didn't, I enjoyed the exhibit floors and the trade shows, and seeing what's new and what's out there and
Mhm.
the beautiful, booths. But I didn't like being a piece of chum to sharks. They'd jump all over you. And I used to have
Okay,
this
so you know what I'm talking about.
I used to have this like zombie stare where I would just stare straight forward, and then I would
Right.
just walk past the booths I wasn't interested in. But I wanted to go through some of your products. I wanted to start with the Vaculux, the autoclavable mouthpiece, um, because since I've switched, I use this on almost every patient, and it just makes me so happy for many reasons. I had shoulder issues, so now I don't have to deal with wrestling with a strong tongue, um, and it corks the patient up. So you get someone that's chatty and they talk a lot. I hear that isolate or that the Vaculux sound on, and it just I can just walk into that room and start drilling. I don't have to. The chit chat's over. It's drill time, baby.
Right.
And it also I don't have to worry about if I've dropped something in the patient's mouth. I do a lot of implants, and there's a lot of small parts and pieces. And then, now with COVID, I've become a total germaphobe. So it's nice to have that extra, the aerosol is getting sucked out of there. And it's great for isolation, scanning crowns or doing fillings. It's awesome. And also, it frees up my assistant to maybe, start breaking down the room next door. I can basically work by myself while using this, and they can be doing something else or being productive in another room. Um, so I use the Vaculux um, in I can use it in pretty much in any room because it's portable, so I can take it into any room, or my hygienist can use it. In my two operatories, I already had the isolate system, so I just use
Mhm.
your mouthpiece on there.
Sure.
So what is the light engine? Because I like I said, I already have the Xyrus light, but you also have your own light, and it's called the light engine. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it's our Hyperlux light engine, and it's a
Hmm.
it basically has a fiber optic cable attached to it, and it works on a magnetic coupler, so it grabs onto our mouthpiece or our little adapter. So I got one over here. So we have a little fiber here, and then it on our every one of our adapters comes with a coupler already built into it, along with the light guide. So it just grabs onto it, and I mean you can get near it, it just grabs it and pulls in there. But what's nice about it is it can swivel 360. You can do whatever. You can pull it off, and you can autoclave this that quick. You know, um, and it's very very user friendly. It's easy to use. It's quick. As you know, your adapters, you just use it and then you toss it in the autoclave. Um, and so the light engine allows the light to transfer through the mouthpiece and light the interoral cavity up. So
Are there different settings, and does it affect composite curing?
no, it doesn't affect posit hearing, but it does have a high, medium, and low. So you've got to, depending on what you're doing with it, because we have other instruments that attach to that light engine. We have a mirror and a transilluminator. So depending on what instrument you're using, you may want to adjust the brightness level. With the mouthpieces, you can put it on high, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I personally, I had, like I said earlier, some shoulder issues and some neck issues. So I can't even tolerate the little overhead light on my loop. So it's nice to have that
Right.
extra illumination, in company with your overhead light. Now we also have this mirror, which is awesome. And my hygienists love this
Yep. Oh yeah.
mirror. What is this called?
So we that mirror is the VacuView, and the VacuView has it's for high volume evacuation, and yeah, we had that in development 1 year prior to COVID, and we hadn't brought it to market yet. We were in the process of fine tuning it, I guess you could say. One of the nice things about that mirror, as you probably already know, is the back of it is just pops out. You just pop it out and you can replace your mirror. So if you scratch your mirror, or your mirror gets for some reason broken, then you just easily replace it. Because you get instruments and what have you, and they get scratched up. But this mirror has been an outstanding product for our company. Hygienists, dental assistants, they love it. They literally fight over them. And then that with the wrist assist, which is that wristband that takes all that weight of an HVE line off of your wrist. It allows you to easily swivel and turn your mirror, because it rotates 360 degrees on the coupler, as you're aware of, which is really nice. This Our coupler, so the Whisperlight kit this is the coupler right here, and all our mirrors fit on them, and then our adapters fit on it. And by the way, that's the same size adapter as any of your HVE, your pieces that you have in your dental office. They all work. If you want to use that, you can. You know what I mean? And so it just depends on what it is. But the mirror is allowed a lot of hygienists and dental assistants to work really, really well. And it pulls, you have the holes in the back that pulls a lot of the liquids and pooling and aerosols. So if you want to do cheek retraction, it works very well. On the front, you've got an air scoop, which pulls a lot of aerosols through it, a ton. And then you've got the little holes in the front for getting pooling liquids and pulling, any liquid off the mirror face. So this piece is powerful. There's no doubt about it. It's got a very sizable bore down the center that allows us to pull a lot of vacuum through this mirror head. So this mirror head was actually a lot of thought went into this mirror head, just from the manufacturing standpoint of it. It takes a 5-axis CNC machine to make that mirror head. So it's, and you do them one at a time. So it's a pretty, it doesn't look like a lot, the mirror head, but there is a lot of machining that has gone into that mirror head if you take it apart and really look at this piece. And so it's, again, we wanted to solve, at the time, we wanted something that would pull aerosols. You could easily replace the mirror without having another tool. But you could also have a 45-degree angle, for cheek retraction, or just looking, seeing very carefully. And you wanted something that was durable enough that you could autoclave it, repeatedly over and over again. I guess the business case to that is, if you make them so they break, then you just sell more of these. But this is a aerospace grade aluminum anodized. It's very light. It's the HVE line makes it heavy. The mirror itself is actually really light. We have 2 sizes of it. We've got a size 4 and a size 5. So it just depends. It's funny. I thought when we got the 4 out, it'd be like, okay, everyone's going to want the 4. A lot of people like the 5. They want the 5. And depending, if you're working with kids, pediatrics, you want the number 4 mirror. The VacuView really has played a very important role in reducing aerosols. And it's funny because a lot of people started using these out of necessity. I think, okay, well, I want to reduce aerosol. Now they're like, well, I can't believe I didn't have it before. Like it's 2 things in one. It's a high volume evacuation suction tube, and it's a mirror. I mean, it doesn't get any better. So they really like them quite a bit. And it's worked out well for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, especially now with COVID, it's these must be selling like hotcakes because of the way it's reducing the aerosols. So now some of my hygienists first started using it, and they felt it was heavy, and then they used the wrist assist, and that was like a game changer.
Hmm.
Um, because ergonomics is so important for to have correct and proper ergonomics for dentists, assistants, hygienists. The profession can take a toll on the body, so anything that can help prolong your career, reduce pain. Like I said, with my shoulder surgery, I'm a righty, but it was my left shoulder, so that's my retracting hand. And with these external isolation devices, I don't have to really retract the tongue. It's done for me. I can almost drill one-handed, and I don't have to
Right.
use my left hand as much. So I have a lot less pain. So same thing with hygienists. They're working alone, in that room. They don't have an assistant with them. Their wrists and their neck and back and eyes are so important for their career. So a lot of these products that you have developed not only make the procedures easier, but it also can prolong your profession. So that's awesome. Um, do you call it splatter management or is it spatter management?
Spatter, splatter, it's
Tomato,
yeah,
tomato.
yeah, it's spatter, it's um I don't know, what would you call it for marketing? Lindsay's into the just aerosol management. But yeah, the pooling of liquids, liquid management. It's kind of all over the place. Depends on
Now,
who you talk to.
what's the Bite Buddy? Was that one of your first products?
Yeah, so the Bite Buddy was that was a mouth prop that we have. And so the Bite Buddy was kind of unique in that you have a really stiff, polycarbonate frame with a really soft rubber, exterior that's on the actual the frame itself. And then inside of it is embedded a magnet. So you have a track, and you can add different accessories. So, you have a saliva ejection tube holder that slides into the track, and it just grabs it and holds it right to where you want it perfectly every time. And then we have actually the tongue depressor that goes with it too. So you can put a tongue depressor on there. And what it does is it doesn't get in the way. So it leaves complete access to your work area, but yet keeps the tongue out of the way. So this was a very simple approach to, what we're doing now with with this piece basically takes over. Now, if you're using a rubber dam, you may want to use, a mouth prop like this. But this piece, kind of, we did a light to it. We did saliva ejection holder for it, a tongue guard with it. We made it very easy to place in the patient's mouth. We have a little attachment tool that grabs and puts it in the patient's mouth, and you can pull it out. But yeah, this was a great product. These have sold really well. They're just a C shape, very simple. You can use it just as a mouth prop if you want. Very easy, but it doesn't restrict access to your work area. So we put some deeper grooves in it, and so on where the teeth, the pattern is, so it doesn't want to worm out as much. But it's yeah, the Bite Buddy was kind of our first product that we released that we kind of went to market with, and we've got some good reaction from it.
What's the placement pal? That's the device that helps
Yeah,
position
that's
it.
that. Yeah, that's the little device that slides into the track, and it allows you to place the bite block in the patient's mouth without putting your whole hand in the mouth, and making sure it's pretty straightforward. I don't think I have one here actually.
And the saliva sidekick.
That saliva sidekick is this little thing. It clips onto any, like, this is just a standard saliva ejection tube, and it just snaps right into it. And so there you go, and then it just clicks right into your bite, your mouth prop, and then
See,
this would go outside.
I smell TV show because it seems like all these products get along. They're all friends. I kind of like Daniel Tiger and my kids watch. You got the Bite Buddy, the Placement Pal. Everyone's friends except for the Radical Reflector. He sounds like the bad boy of the group.
Yeah, the radical reflector is, so our lighted mirror is, if you're doing, root canals or anything like that, this is great because it goes right onto the magnetic coupler, and you can really light the inside of the mouth up, especially if you're working on your molars and you're doing a root canal, you want to see up the canal, this is great because it directs the light. You can kind of see my hand right here. You can see it shoots light and bounces it off the mirror right at the wherever you're looking. So this was ingenious in that it runs the light, but it comes out the tip and hits the mirror at the exact angle and bounces it straight at the object you're looking at. So rather than illuminating, just the head, because you've seen lighted mirrors where they're really not that effective, where this is pushing that light and bouncing it right at the area that you're working on. So it's super bright. It's a 5,000 Kelvin light, and you'll probably most people put it on low. It's so bright.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to wear
But
special
it works.
glasses?
Yeah, it works really well. It's excellent. Yeah, especially with your loops on. Your loops will definitely magnify it. It'll be super bright wherever you're working. But
Do
yeah,
you have
that's
to wear special? Do you have to have special lenses on because of the brightness?
No, not at all. It's once you dial the light engine to low, you're fine.
Okay. And let's see. So, and then I was also going to say that's probably really good for if you have like a broken root tip that you need to go after to see really good in an extraction site. Yep. So it sounds like I originally asked you. I'm big into the mental health of the profession. I'm writing a book on helping young dentists with stress, and I initially asked you, how if there's any way that you help dentists with stress, and I think you really have, because a lot of these devices, just in general, can make a dentist's day-to-day life easier, less stressful, and go into work happier because they're going to have less stress with each procedure. And like I was saying before, when I hear that Vaculux noise go on, that's my go time. My assistants they've showed it to the patient, they've explained it, the patient's numb. I ice test, they ice test the tooth to make sure it's numb. They pop that baby in there and I just go to town. So it's really made my streamlined my procedures. So I wanted to thank you for all of the inventions, especially since it keeps them quiet. The patients can't talk. And I have some patients that their biggest worry is that they're not going to be able to talk for the next half hour. They're like, how am I going to do this? So it's a nice thing to have. It corks them up. So Austin Ritter, thank you so much for joining us. And you can go to dealsfordentists.com and find their promo offer of Ascentcare. And any last words of wisdom or advice you want to give to any of the young dentists out there, or any dentist that is thinking of maybe they have an idea in their head and they want to kind of make it a little side business and follow through with it?
Yeah, stay creative. It's hard to stay optimistic, and when you leave the office at night, you're pretty tired. Like you say, I don't know how dentists do it. I really don't, because it's a lot to handle each day between running your business, managing that aspect of it, and then also working with your patients and staying as focused as they are. It's pretty tough to leave the office and have fresh ideas, or stay optimistic, and there are people out there like ourselves, like myself, that love to hear what it is you have on your mind, and it's important. It's really important that there's a lot of fun in dentistry. I really want the dentist to stay optimistic and really enjoy what they do. And we're here to support them. So anything that they have or would like to express, we're always all ears. There's no doubt about it. But I really respect these dentists. All the dentists out there it's amazing what they do. It really is. It's because you're a small business, and that in itself is challenging. And then you got to market your business, and then you've got to do sales, and then you've got to do hiring, and then you've got to do work on your patients. It's a lot. Dentists have an awful lot on their plate. And how they pull it off so elegantly, I have no idea. I think manufacturing is tough, or what I do. This is easy compared to going into a dental office every day and working with your patients. And really, managing all aspects of that. It's remarkable. It really is. I can see why the average IQ of a dentist is so high. It's because it takes so much mental energy to go into a dental office every day and to be able to compartmentalize all aspects of that day, from managing all of that. It's pretty remarkable. It's no doubt about it.
And then a lot of things you mentioned, we weren't trained in. We were trained in the
Hmm.
clinical work, but we weren't trained in HR, insurance, billing, how to run a business. So a lot of those stresses can build up, and it can create a lot of burnout. So um, with me, I found to have some other things going on, like my website, podcast, to be such a great
Yep.
distraction from the stresses of the office. So I say to a dentist out there that has an idea, like Austin is constantly coming up with new ideas. But if you have an idea, pursue it, because it's nice to have something else going on than just the office. So again, Austin Ritter, thanks so much. You can go to dealsfordentist.com and get 10% off your first order of Ascentcare dental products, and that's exclusively for dealsfordentist.com. Austin, let's be in touch. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Block. I appreciate the time and everything that you do, because there's no doubt about it. You've been a huge outlet for our products. So we really appreciate it over here. So it's been nice.
You got it. My pleasure. Let's be in
All right.
touch.
Take care.